3 years ago, I got a phone call at 6 in the morning that I will never forget. It was my mother, and her voice didn't even sound like her voice. She said, "Your father is on the floor of the bathroom and he isn't answering me." By the time I got there, paramedics were already working on him. He had gone into ventricular fibrillation, his heart quivering instead of beating, standing between him and death by a matter of minutes. And the trigger wasn't a heart attack waiting to happen for years. It was something he did every single morning, the exact same way, for over a decade, without a single warning sign, until the one morning his heart couldn't take it anymore. I am Dr. James Parker, and I need to tell you what happened to my father because it is directly tied to 5 specific morning habits that millions of people do every single day, completely unaware of what those habits are doing to their heart. This isn't theoretical. This is one of the most dangerous windows in the entire 24-hour cycle, and almost nobody is warned about it. Here is the piece of information that changed how I practice medicine after that morning. The first hour after you wake up is physiologically the most dangerous hour of the day for your heart. It isn't dramatic exercise. It isn't a stressful meeting at work. It isn't a heavy meal late at night. It's the ordinary, unremarkable first 60 minutes after your eyes open. And the reason comes down to what your body is naturally doing during that window, whether you feel it or not. While you're asleep, your body shifts into a slower, calmer state. Blood pressure drops, heart rate slows, and your whole cardiovascular system essentially idles overnight. But the moment you wake up, that shifts dramatically and fast. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, surges. Adrenaline spikes right alongside it. Blood pressure climbs, sometimes sharply, as your body transitions from rest to alert. On top of that hormonal shift, hours without water means your blood has become measurably thicker and stickier overnight. Simple dehydration from sleep. And if you're over 60, your arteries themselves have lost some of the flexibility they had decades ago, meaning they can't absorb sudden pressure changes as smoothly as a younger cardiovascular system can. Put all of that together, and your heart wakes up already under a measurable degree of natural physiological stress before you've done anything at all. This is simply what mornings are, biologically. The danger comes from what people do on top of that natural stress, without realizing they're adding fuel to a fire that's already lit. Today I'm walking you through the 5 most common morning habits that take that natural stress and multiply it, sometimes to a genuinely life-threatening degree, especially for anyone over 60 or anyone with existing heart or blood pressure concerns. And I'm going to tell you exactly which one very nearly took my father's life. Before we start, if you watched my last video on the 10 foods that lower blood sugar fast, you know I like giving you tools you can use immediately. This video is the same kind of tool, except today it might genuinely save a life, maybe even your own. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1 is jumping out of bed immediately. This feels completely ordinary. The alarm goes off, you're already running behind, and you swing your legs out and stand up in one motion. Here's what that motion does to your circulatory system. While you were lying down, blood pressure had settled into a lower resting pattern. The instant you go from lying flat to standing upright, gravity pulls a significant volume of blood down into your legs almost immediately, and your cardiovascular system has to react instantly to push blood back up to your brain and maintain pressure. In a healthy, younger system, this adjustment happens fast enough that you barely notice it. But in an older cardiovascular system, or in anyone with blood pressure medication, dehydration, or underlying heart issues, that adjustment can lag behind and blood pressure can drop suddenly, a condition called orthostatic hypotension. The result is that brief head rush feeling, but in more serious cases, it goes much further than a moment of dizziness. It can cause fainting, which on its own leads to dangerous falls, especially in a bathroom with hard tile and sharp edges. And in some cases, that sudden pressure swing itself can trigger a dangerous heart rhythm problem in a heart that was already vulnerable. The fix here is simple and takes less time than you'd think. Before you stand, sit on the edge of the bed for even just 10 to 15 seconds, letting your body catch up to the change in position, then stand up slowly rather than launching upward in one motion. Mistake number 2 is not drinking water after waking up. Think about what your body has just been through, 6, 7, 8 hours with zero fluid intake, while you continue to lose water simply through breathing and normal overnight processes. By the time you wake up, you are, in a very real physiological sense, mildly dehydrated every single morning, whether you feel thirsty or not. And dehydration has a direct, measurable effect on your blood. When fluid volume drops, your blood becomes thicker and more concentrated, almost like syrup compared to water. Thicker blood is harder for your heart to pump, requiring more force and more strain with every beat. And thicker, stickier blood is also more prone to forming clots. This is one of the specific, well-recognized reasons why heart attacks and strokes cluster disproportionately in the morning hours compared to any other time of day. Combine that morning blood thickness with the blood pressure surge from cortisol and adrenaline we already talked about, and you have a heart working harder, pushing thicker blood during the exact window when a clot is most likely to cause a real problem. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. A full glass of water within the first few minutes of waking, before coffee, before anything else, starts reversing that overnight thickening immediately and gives your cardiovascular system one less obstacle to fight through during its most vulnerable hour. Mistake number 3 is drinking strong coffee on an empty stomach. I know how many people are going to resist this one because for a lot of us, coffee first thing in the morning feels less like a habit and more like a requirement. Here's the problem specifically with drinking it before eating anything. Caffeine on an empty stomach absorbs into your bloodstream considerably faster than it would with food present to slow that absorption down. That faster absorption means a sharper, more sudden spike in both adrenaline and blood pressure compared to the same cup of coffee taken alongside breakfast. Remember, your body is already producing its own natural cortisol and adrenaline surge simply from waking up. Layering a fast-acting dose of caffeine directly on top of that natural spike with nothing in your stomach to buffer it can push blood pressure and heart rate up sharply and abruptly rather than the gentler curve you'd get from coffee later in the day or coffee taken with food. For most healthy people, this passes without incident. But for anyone with existing high blood pressure, arrhythmia, or heart disease, this specific combination, empty stomach plus strong caffeine plus the body's natural morning surge, has been directly implicated in dangerous blood pressure spikes and abnormal heart rhythms. The fix isn't necessarily giving up coffee, it's simply not making it the very first thing you consume. Even a small piece of fruit, a few nuts, or a full glass of water 15 to 20 minutes before your coffee gives your body enough of a buffer to blunt that sharp spike considerably. Mistake number 4 is doing intense exercise too early, particularly high-intensity workouts done first thing before eating and often before drinking water either. I want to be careful here because I am not telling anyone to stop exercising. Regular exercise is one of the single best things you can do for long-term heart health, full stop. The issue is specifically the timing and intensity combination. Remember everything we've covered so far. Your heart is already dealing with a natural cortisol and adrenaline surge. Your blood is already thicker from overnight dehydration. Your blood pressure is already elevated from the simple act of waking up. Adding a high-intensity workout directly on top of all of that, especially while fasted and dehydrated, asks your heart to perform at its highest output precisely during the window when it's already under the most natural strain of the entire day. This is a very different scenario from a moderate walk or gentle stretching, which barely raises demand on the heart at all. It's specifically intense cardio, heavy lifting, or sprint-style workouts done immediately upon waking, with no water and no food, that create the highest risk. This exact combination has been linked repeatedly to sudden cardiac events, specifically ischemia, where heart tissue temporarily doesn't get enough oxygen, and dangerous rhythm disturbances in people who otherwise seem to have no heart problems at all. If early morning is truly the only time that works in your schedule, the fix is straightforward. Drink water first, Eat something small, let 15 to 20 minutes pass before your workout begins, and consider saving the highest intensity portion of your training for later in the day when your cardiovascular system isn't already compensating for the morning surge. And now, mistake number 5, the one I told you about at the start of this video, because this is exactly what happened to my father. Cold showers and ice baths immediately after waking up. In recent years, cold exposure has become enormously popular, promoted heavily online for its supposed benefits to energy, metabolism, and mental toughness. And there is genuine research behind some benefits of cold exposure done correctly. But doing it the moment you wake up, on top of everything else already happening in your body during that window, is where this becomes genuinely dangerous. Here is the mechanism. Sudden cold exposure causes your blood vessels to constrict extremely rapidly, a reflex your body uses to preserve core body heat. This vessel constriction can spike blood pressure by a significant margin, in some cases 40 to 60 points within seconds, not minutes. Layer that sudden spike on top of the cortisol surge, the adrenaline spike, the thicker overnight blood, and stiffer arteries that come with age, and you are asking a heart that is already working overtime to absorb an additional sudden extreme pressure shock all at once. My father had read that cold showers were good for his heart. He'd been doing it every single morning for over 10 years, stepping straight from bed into a cold shower before he'd had water, before he'd eaten, before his body had any chance to ease into the day. For years, nothing happened, and that false sense of safety is exactly what makes this habit so dangerous, because it convinces you the risk isn't real until the one morning your heart simply cannot absorb the shock anymore. That morning, the sudden vessel constriction combined with everything else already stacked against his heart triggered ventricular fibrillation, a chaotic, ineffective quivering of the heart muscle instead of a normal beat. If my mother hadn't been home, if paramedics had taken even a few minutes longer, I would not have a father today. He survived, and he has never taken a cold shower first thing in the morning again. If you do cold exposure as part of your routine, the fix is about sequencing, not necessarily stopping entirely. Never do it as the very first thing after waking. Let your body ease through its natural morning surge first, hydrate, move gently, and only then, later in the day, consider cold exposure if you choose to continue it at all, and always with a doctor's input if you have any existing heart or blood pressure history. Let's put the full picture together, because understanding the combination is more important than memorizing any single mistake on this list. In the morning, cortisol surges, adrenaline spikes, blood pressure rises on its own. Your blood is measurably thicker than it will be later in the day. And if you're over 60, your arteries have lost some of the flexibility that once let them absorb sudden changes smoothly. None of that is a mistake. It's simply human biology. And it happens to every single one of us every single morning. The 5 habits we just covered, jumping up too fast, skipping water, hitting caffeine on an empty stomach, going straight into intense exercise, or shocking your system with cold water, don't create danger out of nothing. They take a cardiovascular system that is already working through a completely natural morning surge, and they layer additional avoidable stress directly on top of it. Individually, most hearts can absorb one of these stresses without incident, which is exactly why these habits feel so safe for so long. It's the stacking, the surge, plus the dehydration, plus the caffeine, plus the sudden exertion or cold shock, all within the same 15 to 20 minute window that creates what I genuinely think of as a perfect cardiovascular storm. So here is the solution I now recommend to every patient I see, especially anyone over 60 or anyone with any history of blood pressure or heart concerns, and it takes 5 minutes. Step 1, before you even sit up, stay lying down for a moment and take several slow, deliberate breaths. This alone helps ease your nervous system out of sleep mode gradually rather than snapping into full alert the instant your eyes open. Step 2, sit up and drink a full glass of water before doing anything else, addressing that overnight thickening immediately. Step 3, while still sitting, gently move your ankles in circles for a few seconds. This activates the muscle pumps in your lower legs that help your circulatory system redistribute blood before you're fully upright, reducing the sudden blood pressure drop that comes with standing. Step 4, Do a few minutes of gentle stretching, nothing intense, just enough to ease your body into movement gradually rather than all at once. Step 5, only now, stand up slowly, giving your body a moment to adjust to the new position before you start moving around the house. 5 simple steps, 5 minutes total, and you have systematically diffused nearly every mechanism we just discussed, all before your first cup of coffee. I want to say clearly, this is not about fear. It's about respect for a window of time your body is naturally more vulnerable in, whether you've ever thought about it or not. My father is alive today because paramedics reached him in time, not because anyone warned him beforehand about what a cold morning shower could do, stacked on top of everything else his heart was already managing. I'm telling you this so that you get the warning he never had. If this information mattered to you, or if it reminded you of someone in your life who does one or more of these 5 things every single morning, take a second and share this with them and tap that like button so this reaches more people before their own 6 a.m. phone call happens. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 morning habits do you do right now without realizing it. I read every single comment and it tells me exactly what to cover in the next video. Before you go, if today's video changed how you think about your first hour awake, my last video will change how you think about your plate. It's called Doctor Explains the Best Foods to Eat to Lower Blood Sugar Fast, and it covers 10 specific foods, some of them almost certainly already in your kitchen, that have a real measurable effect on blood sugar, including one that can lower a blood sugar spike by roughly 20% in a single sitting. If blood sugar and heart health matter to you, and they are more connected than most people realize, that video belongs right after this one. I'll leave it here for you. I'm Dr. James Parker. Protect that first hour, and I'll see you in the next one. Next.